And good evening, everyone.
Hey y'all.
Welcome to the 2025 edition of Moffat on Money. I'm Clay, joined by the lovely and gracious E Train. We're glad to be with you tonight.
That
It
would be
has been a
me.
little, yeah. We had a little break, a little Christmas New Year's break, but we are back and GTG, good to go. Hello, Jane. How are you doing? North Pole East. What temperature is it up there right now? I know we're getting down in the mid 20s tonight,
It's chilly.
which is terribly cold for us.
hmm
So hope you're staying warm. Have a good fire going up there. It's good to see you again. For anybody, watching, if you are new or, part of the family, just say, hey, let us know you're here. We'd like to say hey, or we'd like to introduce ourselves.
Oh,
Also, don't forget the little YouTubey stuff. Hit the likes, the subscribes, all that good stuff. Help us out there if you will. 27 without the wind chill. Well, hell, it's just about that cold here. Hello, Melissa. Good to see you. How's everything in sunny California? Hope it's all beautiful and warm out there. I've got some friends down in Florida, and they're all 65 degrees, 70, whatever, just kind of laughing.
yeah, they're on the
But
beach.
I like the change of seasons. I got to admit, and I'm willing to put up with some cold. It also kills the mosquitoes. Hello, Sky. Happy New Year's to you as well. Sky is broadcasting live from the 51st, from Canada. It's good to see you.
51st state.
The proposed 51st state.
hmm
It's funny. I know, some Canadians are amused, some are irritated, some are like, yeah, let's do it. I think their purchasing power would go up 40% if they were overnight converted to the dollar. But
Yeah.
economically, things would probably be better. But I kind of like Canadians. I kind of like having,
Mhm.
a neighbor. So, and I'm definitely not sure about the some of the Trudeau people.
Mm.
I mean, the guy has consistently done everything he can to hurt Canada.
Yeah, yes.
And, I'm big on economics and finance. And so I obviously disagree with a lot of his policies. But um, every Canadian I met's been a good person and love having you as a neighbor. We're having winds and fires today. I saw the
Heard.
fire. Yeah. Man, the
Cheerful.
smoke coming off of that. Hello, cheerful.
How you
Happy
doing?
New Year. 31 degrees here. Yeah, seems like most everybody is, except California, who's enjoying the smoke, is below freezing. Yeah, he resigned.
hmm As he
Do
should.
you, do you think Trump, Sky Dogs Discussions, we call her Sky, is a longtime member of the family, a much loved one, and she lives up in Canada,
Canadian.
Canada. Yeah,
The
sorry.
51st state of Canada.
Yeah, why is it Canadians and Canada? Why in Canadians? I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. I was going to ask, do you think Trump ragging on Trudeau about annexing Canada due to the job he's done kind of encouraged his resignation? I'm curious. I knew he was, losing badly in the polls, but was curious as what, Canadians' viewpoint on that was. When Trump first said it, I was just like shaking my head, going, "He didn't, did he?"
Oh, yeah, he
But
did. Of
yeah, he
course he did.
did. Yeah, he is now. To
Short
me, he's
answer,
more mellow than he has been, but he still doesn't have much of a filter.
short answer is no.
Good enough.
Fair
I
enough.
was, yeah, I was kind of curious as to whether that they hated him long before Trump mentioned that. Yeah, I just didn't know whether all the public attention and international attention started to be focused on him then, whether that actually had anything to do with it or encouraged it along, what your view was. And you got a whole lot better perspective than we do down here. But hope everything works out well for you. I know, some people are a little bothered that he resigned instead of calling for another election. The difference is that his party now just gets to pick another leader and remain in office.
Well, that's what they wanted. Anywho.
Yeah, tonight we're going to talk about the attacks on America and were they attacks. We've got some new things out on both the New Orleans and the Las Vegas events. New video shows that Jabbar, the guy in New Orleans, actually planted IEDs inside coolers down Bourbon Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which police never noticed. I'm not sure how he planned to detonate them or whether they were set on a timer or whatever and didn't go off. But that was kind of news. Cheerful, like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. Cheerful is obviously from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And she has her own shining examples of politicians. I got to admit, I've just absolutely hated politicians for the past couple decades in all countries. So I really don't discriminate. I just am by nature not a fan of big government. Bigger government gets fewer freedoms and rights individuals have. And so personally, I'm not a fan. And that's been the trend for the past 40 years. And Melissa, but when you call about abandoned items like suitcases and backpacks, no one cares and takes them forever to respond if they do at all. And that's a legitimate problem. The police are getting, how do I say this, more and more disinterested in serving and protecting. I mean, everything they do is under the microscope. They get hammered for so much. Any event is recorded on video, and they are, a good portion of the people in the country will criticize them no matter how they handled the event. The other half will support them no matter how they handled the event. But I imagine it's really, really gets tiring being under that kind of microscope with everything you do all the time. And it's annoying to me. Real quick, I watched some of these police videos, and I saw a kind of an individual who's being belligerent with a cop, would not give him license and registration for a traffic stop. So he said, "You do it or I'm going to have to put you under arrest. Give me the papers." And he said, "Okay, I will put you under," she refused several times. He said, "Okay, I'll put you under arrest. Turn around, put your hands, behind your back." He literally had to repeat himself like 20 times. And she kept saying, "Don't touch me. Don't touch me." And he would, explain to her again and did it 20 times. And I'm like, I just don't have the patience. I couldn't do that.
No, you couldn't.
So that's what I was going to say. I think that kind of thing is really hurting. It's going to hurt recruiting for cops. People see that and go, "I don't want to do that." And two, the cops that are there now, they'll retire as early as they can. So, some of these big city departments are hurting, trying to hire people and get good people. That's a problem. Jane, the farm show with all of those people felt safe and went off without a hitch. I will say that our police force here is top notch. There's a lot of good ones, a lot of good people. I've got a lot of, friends, who were former officers, just good people, really care. there's, we've all seen some, not so much, you know. Um, but just, the way the environment is now, I I damn sure wouldn't want to do it. I'm thankful some do because they are necessary, but yeah, I think it's getting harder and harder to get that type of protect and serve that.
I think that kind of goes into what we're talking about tonight because I don't know. I have lots of questions.
And there are a lot of questions that have been raised on these two issues. We've also been finding out that New Orleans had barricades that could have stopped the attack, but they didn't put them up because the police chief was out to lunch. Their police chief was arrested a while back with hitting two pedestrians. She was fired from Oakland for incompetence. I don't know why she was hired in New Orleans, but nonetheless, it's pretty clear the terrorist never should have made it that far in the first place. He was just a walking red flag that the FBI should have scooped up long ago. I mean, this guy was posting crazy things on the internet about the end times, about his being an ISIS supporter, pledging allegiance to ISIS, and while this guy was claiming to be a ISIS supporter and talking about end times for the infidel, the FBI was rummaging through Melania Trump's closet. It's like, they also missed 2 attempted assassinations on President Trump. And both of those had online red flags blowing up. And it's like, what's going on with law enforcement? So you've got the guy in New Orleans, clear terrorist, and defining terrorism. I would define it simply, kind of its traditional definition, I think, is somebody that uses mass violence to try to affect, political outcomes or positions, or does it for religious, fever. Now you've got the Trump Hotel, which was initially labeled as a second terrorist attack, a day after the New Orleans event. The individual involved, Matthew Livelsberger, was a do what?
Nothing.
Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to say something.
Livelsberger out at Goober.
Yeah, Livelsberger. I'm just going to call him Matthew.
Okay, call him Matt.
No disrespect to to the last name, but it just doesn't roll off my tongue quite smoothly. But the guy, was a 37-year-old master sergeant, from Colorado Springs. He was involved in a Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump Hotel, something probably most people have seen on New Year's Day. Now, I got to give credit where credit is due. E-Train has done most of the research on this. She was extremely interested in this topic. We both feel like the media has done its usual poor job of covering what we think is a relatively important event. And in, trying to research this, there are a lot of questions, that a lot of inconsistencies that, we have noticed or have questions about. And in the mainstream media, it just gets quieter and quieter.
Now, I was going to say, it really got my attention because I was watching the Sean Ryan show after this because there were so many attacks like all at one time. There was DC shootings, there was New York City shootings, there was the New Orleans, and then there was Vegas. And I watched Sean Ryan's interview with Sam. I'm going to mess up his name. I want to say Shoemaker. It's Shoemate. And I was like, wait a minute. There is so much more to this story than I ever thought there was. And yeah, it's down.
I thought it was 155. Oh, where'd 150?
No,
There it is.
right
Yeah,
there.
right here.
Yep. Sam Shoemate. And Sam Shoemate was an intelligence officer with the Army. He retired in 2023. Clay, you've got the stats I sent you. And if you have slides, you might want to put them up. I'm not sure if you do or not.
Yeah, wasn't able to get,
Okay.
getting, slides on him.
In 2020, he started an Instagram page. He just wanted to do like memes and funny things because it was COVID and why not? Ended up that a lot of the service members from across the military sort of made him their point guy as far as turning in or disclosing to him things that were unethical or illegal. And they trusted Sam to keep their identities secret and still
Get the information out.
get the information out and hold those accountable. So, and that's what Sam has been doing. So Sam received an email from Matt in November, late November. He'd also sent emails to the Sean Ryan show. And Clay, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, he apparently sent emails to several different people, but like Sean Ryan's channel is a little bit bigger than ours. I'm trying to see. He's got
Little bit,
3.8 subscribers.
3.8 million. Sorry, million. I just spit on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, we have 4.1 subscribers. He has 3.8. Ours is actually in thousands. He's actually in millions. So he gets, 1,000 DMs a day. So he really doesn't go through them or read them all unless, they're flagged as being from somebody, special, or like Sam Shoemaker. We just call him Shoe.
Shoemate.
Shoemate.
Doing it too.
We just, we just call him Shoe. Has a smaller account, but he has Sean's phone number. So if he has something interesting, he's been on Sean's show before, we'll be on it again. He just, texts Sean, and then they talk and decide to do a show. So that's how Shoe got on Sean Ryan's channel. And Shoe is small enough that he reads his DMs. Kind of like I try to usually. So if you have a great lead on a great story, there you go. But Shoe is the guy to pass it on to hire folks and be able to do that because he's got the digits of these folks. So, and Shoe himself has some credit. He's retired Army intelligence. He was a CW2 at Chief Warrant Officer. In 2020, he started his Instagram account, which is Terminal CWO.
Yes.
And developed a relatively large network of service members across all different branches. So they trust the guy, as Ellen said. They trust him with reports of unethical, sometimes illegal behavior. And so that's why Matt got in touch with Shoe. He's good at blowing the whistle and protecting the whistleblower to hold military leaders accountable for their actions.
And to be quite frank, Shoe was like, "This sounds like a crazy person. Like, I don't know who this is. I don't know what's going on." And he said to his wife, "I don't think we actually got this. I didn't grab this snippet for you." But he was like, he told his wife, he was like, "Well, I guess we'll find out if it's real or not. If if he dies or the FBI comes after him, then I guess it's legit." And then
Sorry, I was sitting here looking for a picture of the truck that apparently, I thought I got downloaded and didn't.
Well, Moffat.
I know. Give me just a second. I'm going to let you continue to carry the show while I download the pic.
Yeah. So, once he was like, okay, something's going on after January 1st. And I don't want to get too far into all the details before, because I know we have a couple clips to show you from Sean Ryan. And then we've also got a lot of information to show you from what has come to light this afternoon or this evening. I think, well, at least I can say for myself, I don't know that I trust a lot of the information coming out. This is from Forbes. Now, this was oddly specific. Can you blow that up, please? If you can look inside the driver's seat, it's ironic how you can completely and totally make out the person in the vehicle. Thoughts? Anyone? Clay?
Yeah, he originally, I saw a brief video. I could not find it. This was a couple days ago, where right before the explosion.
Hear you. Can y'all hear Clay?
Can you hear me now?
You're breaking up for me. Anybody else?
Can you hear me now?
I can now.
I think my feedback seems okay. But I saw that was a...
Exactly. Yeah, okay. His mic was crackling.
Well, I saw that in this video, he actually turns to his right, and then you see this initial blast. And he apparently poured fuel in the back seat.
White gas.
And so he was...
Racing fuel.
Yeah, racing fuel. It's a little bit higher octane. It's a little bit more volatile. And he was trying to, I believe, detonate some tannerite. It wasn't actually tannerite. Tannerite is an impact explosive. So shooters will sometimes use it to create an explosion, but you have to have a bullet that's traveling fast enough to start the explosion. Like a slow-moving bullet, like from a 45, 950 feet a second, won't do it. You usually need something that's a little bit higher powered, like 5.56 traveling at 2,300 feet. That's going fast enough to detonate the tannerite, which would then set off the explosion with the gasoline fumes.
Here's my question. As Jane says, because they said one of the bullets, I think I sent you a picture of that too, the pin had hit it on the igniter. They said that there's several reports that he shot himself in the head.
Yes.
He killed himself. Okay. As Jane says, that was no Desert Eagle blast, or he wouldn't have a head for us to see.
No, and for those of y'all not familiar with the Desert Eagle, it's a 50 AE caliber gun, which is one of, if not the largest caliber factory manufactured weapons made.
Pistol, yeah.
Pistol, yeah. And the impact, the velocity, the size, the hole that the bullet creates, the air rushing in would just create a significant implosion. He would literally mist his brain.
Yeah. But there's not that here.
No,
Why would he
he's
choose to blow up the car and burn to death and suffer?
yeah. I'm not saying he used the
Yeah.
Desert Eagle to detonate it. I'm just offering potential explanations because we don't have, or I don't have enough information to know exactly the sequence of events. They
Well, they
did
said that.
find 3 shell casings in the car.
Mhm.
So 2 of them, the primer was blown out. So it would make you think they detonated outside of the gun. Like he would, load some rounds in the gun. He had some other rounds sitting in the dashboard. I mean, in the cup holder of his car. Don't know. When those rounds caked off, the primer was kicked out, or the intense heat melted them, softened them up, dropped them out, whatever.
Jane, they reported his head and teeth were unrecognizable from the gun blast. I call BS on that. I call it too. There is something not right about any of this. You
Yeah.
can see him after the blast, totally intact.
Well, this is right as it's beginning. This is 60 frames a second, so this is 1/60th of a second. Right as the ignition is beginning.
Now, there is an actual, before this, I didn't send you this one just because I didn't think it was all that important, but you can see where it ignites quite a bit before this, if you're going frame by frame.
Yeah, that's what I would like to look at.
I can try to grab it for you.
But, we started off talking about inconsistencies, and there's some questions. If he used, and where is it? All right. Let's get a little bit back on track here. We're
Sorry.
rambling a little bit, but the Las Vegas PD
You're
just held a
crackling
press
again.
conference an hour ago. I think it's you. I don't think it's me.
No, it's you. They said it was you.
Huh. I'm not doing anything different. I'm just talking.
Mike.
Mike. As far as my settings here,
Wiggle the cord a little bit.
StreamYard's doing well. It's showing, full sound. Melissa, it's it's Clay. All right, let me try this.
Hey, Jane says it
But I was
happens
going
when
to
you sit
say,
down.
that's funny. I'm not really touching anything. It's better now. Trying to see if I can find. Yeah, there it is. Las Vegas PD held a press conference literally about an hour before we went on the air. And so some of this information we're throwing out to you now is from that press conference. One thing that LVPD brought out is that he was using ChatGTP to help plan the event.
So they
And I'm
say
calling it an event because
because
and
they
they
are able
produced some of
to.
these questions from his phone app of ChatGTP. Go ahead.
They're saying that they could get information off of his phone, which is amazing to me, seeing as it was probably destroyed in the blast.
So LAV, LVPD, say that 10 times fast, was said that they were pulling some of these messages or questions to Chat GPT off of his phone. And if you'll notice, some of the questions were Smith & Wesson Model 500, 3,000 feet per second, could it ignite tannerite, 308 pistols, 7.5 feet per second. What
it's when you're moving your mouse.
Trying to do, pardon?
Your mic again, it's when you're moving your mouse.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Is there a cord tied up there somewhere?
No, they're not touching.
Huh.
So technical difficulties from the home studio. I'm going to have to fire the damn engineer. This is inexcusable.
Can't blame me. I'm not there.
Yeah, when I get Mahoney, I will ream her out sufficiently. But and some people were wondering, why is he asking about the velocity and speed out of these different weapons? Which one, to me, is a little weird, because this guy had been in the teams for 15 years. He ought to be extremely comfortable with different weapons, different calibers, and at least approximate velocities. I mean, that's his tradecraft. But the questions are legitimate, because he knows if he's got tannerite or a close substitute, he actually had ammonium nitrite and aluminum, which kind of does the same thing. He knows what he needs, a certain velocity to detonate it. And so, that's what he was inquiring on ChatGTP. So some people were like, why was he, wanting to know the velocity of the different weapons? Was he interested in, misting other people or, doing more damage? Well, he made it very clear by his actions that he did not want to hurt anybody else. And I said that from the very beginning because, one, Tesla advertises it's quote unquote bulletproof. Well, it's not really bulletproof. For a small caliber and a slower bullet, it won't penetrate. Like for a 9mm, probably a 45 won't penetrate. A higher speed bullet, higher velocity bullet would. So you can't really say it's bulletproof, but it's, at least pretty damn resistant. It's a pretty strong cage. I got to believe Matt knew that. Secondly, this guy had all the credentials. He knew IEDs front, back, Green and Beret. Center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Improvised explosive devices. He knew how to make them. He knew how to disarm them. And you don't get much of an explosion. You don't create an explosion that will blow apart a solid, strong, well-made truck by using fireworks and tannerite. It's just very, very, very weak explosives.
It is, and it's like Jane says, this guy's supposed to be a special forces operator. These questions seem off. I mean, in my opinion, I'm just going to throw this out there, I don't think that was him in that vehicle. I don't think he asked these questions. He did say, I guess we're going to get to the point what Sean and Sam said.
Do you have that video?
It's on. Never uploaded it for you?
Yeah, I have it. Video? I don't have it. Can you find it?
But anyway, he would also have a Desert Eagle and not have to purchase one. He was active duty. Would he not?
Well, the teams don't use a Desert Eagle. It's heavy. It's hard to find ammo. A lot of times if you're in a firefight, you might borrow clips or rounds from somebody else. That's why everybody carries pretty much, standard weapons, 9mm standard ammo. You can, replace it easily. You also get more rounds if you're a good shot, hit what you're aiming at. A good 9mm round will do what you want it to do. Plus, you've got 15 rounds versus 7 rounds. So that's a big advantage.
I cannot get into studio on here as you at the moment.
Okay. Then I'm going to let you talk for a second while I get on it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with Ellen. My spidey senses are off the charts, this whole thing. I agree. I mean, none of this makes sense. Everyone that has been around this guy, even his, what they call him, the CO, what is it, his leadership, has said he's nothing wrong, no problems. I mean, he was sane. He had no mental health issues that would keep him from doing his job. He nothing that sent off any red flags to family, friends, co-workers, but he was obviously terrified.
I want to get context on one of the.
Which one is this?
Okay, this is
the phone number change. This is not the.
Yeah, the only thing I've got two are the man pads and signal number.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, this is the signal number. Go for it then.
So, but let's finish up on the explosives real quick. This guy knew how to build a extremely powerful bomb. If he wanted to commit a terrorist act, remember my definition of terrorism, inflicting mass casualties, mass damage for political beliefs or political motivation. He very clearly structured this so that there would be no other casualties. He even waited to detonate it till there was nobody around. And the whole, explosion was contained in the truck. Now, we were talking about the 50 cal earlier. If he actually, as according to police reports, shot himself with a 50 cal, I don't think that Tesla would have contained the round. So you would have seen, a penetration by the round through the Tesla. And you would have literally, as it, there was the explosion and the expanding gases, it would have come through that hole. It would have been noticeable in the video. And how do you, set off now as an individual with the tannerite and all the gunpowder and the fuel going off, that creates intense heat for a human. So in the middle of all that, if you fire a round to set off the tannerite and ignite everything, then how do you get, with all that going on and that heat, it seems to me a little difficult or not exactly optimal to try to terminate yourself as well after that kind of explosion has happened. I don't know.
It'd be impossible. I mean, it was so hot. Yeah. He had to, if from what they're saying, have shot himself, if that picture's correct, after that. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And there should be one round in the tannerite and one round that came out of the Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So where are they? I don't know.
I think I meant for you to bring up the email, the original email, just to kind of, as for some who may have not ever seen it.
Oh, his email, his letter?
Yes. The original one that he sent to Sam Shu.
This one?
Yeah, can you make that bigger, please? Big. Perfect.
Now, I don't know.
Oh, you're crackling again.
This Dabber Milk at Proton Mail was his email. Proton Mail was a secured mail.
You're breaking up.
What? I'm not moving the mouse.
You just did, but you're breaking up.
I'm not moving the mouse.
Okay. You're breaking up.
How's that? Is that better? No? I don't Well,
Okay, we'll go up and I'll read through it. Yeah, it's like he's on 2 times speed too.
that's funny.
It kind of is.
I'm
You
going
gotta
to
go back and
try.
find it.
I'm going to try this. I'm going to kill this and restart it. How about now? Am I breaking up?
You're good.
I'm good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has something to do with sharing the screen. I don't know why. But let's try this. Is that better?
Yep, you're good. Play the chipmunk. It is kind of funny.
I don't even mind. Okay, we don't know what went before, but the prior email was December 29th. It says, "Do not message me. I will send out updates via both Signal and email, but trust me, you're going to want to be involved." Okay.
Wow.
Then, whoops.
Yeah.
On December 31st, we have the follow-up email. Again, the only way Matthew is communicating is using Proton or Signal, which are both pretty secure communications. They can be hacked by DIA or NSA, but, FBI, not so much. Regular agencies, not so much. Individuals, probably not. They're pretty secure. And so he sends this email to Shu, trying to explain what's going on. And he says, "Can y'all read this?"
Sort of.
That's about as big as I can go and keep it on the screen.
Well, go ahead and read through it.
Yeah, it just says, "In case I do not make it to my decision point or on to the Mexican border." Okay, point right there. He wasn't contemplating suicide.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to go to the Mexican border. And this is on December the 31st, the day before. "Please do not release this until 1 Jan and keep my identity private until then. First of all, not under duress or hostile influence control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification."
Now, that is something the military does, apparently. That is one of the things.
Yeah, because most people don't know what your first car was. But
Jane,
you never forget your first car.
How
do we know these? Go ahead.
Proton mail, because that is how it was sent and received.
Yeah, and Shu also released the headers from the email, which if you're a big enough geek in networking and email and all, you can track those headers, and they both were tied to the correct accounts. Now, could the NSA create a false header? Probably. But we're just going with what we got. How do we know? What I'm saying is, how do we know he set them up to begin and wasn't an imposter from the beginning? We don't. That's not a bad question.
We don't know a whole lot. That's why we're doing this, because there are more questions than there are answers.
Yeah. But you would have to be pretty familiar with this guy's life and history to know his first car. Because, 20 years ago, the internet and pictures and Instagram really wasn't a thing. But he goes on in the letter and continues. "What we have been seeing with drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered by aircraft, most recently China in the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability." Now, that's an interesting word, gravitic. It's basically most people would refer to it as an anti-gravity device. To my knowledge, and to the knowledge of Shu and Sean and people on the show, there has been no research, successful research done or published, I should say published in this area. No researcher has had any kind of success coming up with any kind of pseudo anti-gravity device. The term gravatic basically comes from gamers who, I don't even know the name of the games, but they use the term for some of their modes of transportation. So that was kind of an interesting term that I'm not sure somebody well steeped in intelligence or who had actual information on the top secret programs, which I'm not even sure this guy had access to, would use. Our OpScen Operations Center location for this activity is in the box below. China's been launching them from the Atlantic via submarines for years. Activity recently has picked up. As of now, it's just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated communication system. SIGINT, signal intelligence. What is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned AC aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. Basically have unlimited payload capacity and can park over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. USG needs to give the history of this, U.S. government, and how we're employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now, likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBED. Vehicle-borne improvised explosive device.
Now, funny because the FBI asked Sam what a VBED was.
Yeah.
He was like, don't you know this?
Yeah, and it's very possible. I can see how, due to compartmentalization, a local FBI agent investigating the scene of the crime may not be exactly familiar with what counterterrorism team is doing. It's possible. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrike in Nimruz Province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the Admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of CIVCAS, civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft and CENTCOM. UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA and agent blanked out of the DEA. So I don't know if
those have been redacted because those agents are actually still
active.
And Sean Ryan was saying that he got a ton of text messages going, you can't put these names out there. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it.
So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. What abduction attempt? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with General Miller's IQ staff on this, as well as the response to Bala Mogab. AOBS, the commander at the time, redacted, can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew, last name there?
Livelsberger.
An active duty 18 Zulu out of 110. 18 Zulu is his MOS, military occupation specialty. 18 is a special forces command sergeant, so basically the equivalent of a master sergeant, maybe sergeant major. And 110 is his specific unit.
Now, when you said something about the gravity thing, he has an active top secret clearance with UAPs, with USAP access. Now,
yes.
UAPs are essentially, I can't remember what the freaking acronym now, but UFOs. They call them UAPs now because there are some that have come from the ocean.
It's unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay, you done? Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's his letter. And there's some, unusual things there. He says he has, active clearance with UAPs. Why?
Mike.
Huh?
Mike. Your mic.
Oh, geez. It's back again. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, I bet Chris Beck would know. Cecile, he was all up into that stuff. He was tapped to build the Iron Man suit. Melissa, Mike. Well, y'all, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what the issue is.
It's Clay the Crackly Chipmunk.
Well, just as long as that goes on my tombstone, I'll be happy.
You're good now.
Can you hear me now? Am I cracking up?
Nope. You're cracking
so
me
anytime
up.
I move my mouse on either screen, okay. That's kind of hard because I control everything with my mouse, so I probably can't avoid some of the cracking up, but I will try to keep it to a
minimum.
To a minimum.
Minimum. Yeah, it's kind of funny though. I think we're all.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Well, welcome to the happy hour. Now, something that's a little bit, like we said, inconsistent is, according to the reports, he allegedly shot himself just before the explosion. But you can see in the video that wasn't the case. The handgun was, found at his feet. And I'm saying, though I've never experienced it, just trying to imagine. Jane, you're pushing it, kiddo. Alvin. Do I really sound like Alvin?
You kind of do.
I can still hear that in the background. Alvin.
You got to go back and watch it because it's like a very sped up chipmunk crackling sound.
No, that's funny. Stupid computers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to imagine with that kind of heat and just the immediate surge of pain all over your body, being able to maintain control and pull the gun around, position it wherever you want it and pull the trigger. And then there not be, exit point from the vehicle or, as Jane, mentioned earlier, the size of that and the velocity would literally just mist your entire skull.
Yeah.
It just kind of doesn't fit. That doesn't prove anything.
No.
But it's just why?
Well, it's one of them, their common sense thingies.
Yeah. Now, I think we can pretty safely say it's not a terrorist event because there were great measures taken to ensure that nobody else was hurt. Even in one of his letters, or this quote unquote manifesto that Vegas found on his phone, states that he did not want to hurt anybody else. He did not want to be labeled a terrorist. The only life he wanted to take was his own, which is interesting, seeing as the day before he was talking about some event and then going to Mexico.
Yep.
Wonder what changed in a few hours. There is no political, ideology associated with it. Now in the manifesto, there is a fair amount of guilt over what happened in Afghanistan in 2019. Supposedly, according to his ex-girlfriend, who he got it back in contact with shortly before the first, he supposedly moved out of his house on December 26th. Some issues of infidelity are alleged. Don't know that for certain. They are alleged. And don't know.
Okay.
Don't know the details. That's just been repeated several times in the articles that I saw. And apparently at that time, he just dialed up his ex and was talking to her. And she recounted him, saying he was, having some depression, or sounded like he was, depressed, some issues.
This is
his commander, people he worked with said they never noticed anything. No problems. So that's a little weird. You think people that you lived with, breathed with, fought beside would be very aware of any pain or anguish you had over doing your job, or severe regrets in your chosen profession.
Well, at least a state of mind, because that's kind of important when you're in the military and you're active duty and you're a Green Beret.
You would think. The manifesto, was written to try to send a wake-up call to Americans. Obviously, he had been trying to get some of these stories out in the media, not having a whole lot of success. But I don't know how long he had been trying. The correspondence we have with Shu started in December. So
end of November.
Yeah, end of November, he first made contact, but the real information started coming in December. That's not a whole lot of time to think, hey, I can't get this story out unless I blow myself up. I'm not trying to make light of it, but to me, that is another inconsistency. Things were progressing. He was getting his story out. I don't know.
Unless they thought that, like he said, he thought the FBI was chasing him or following him. Unless he made some sort of signal to them that, or to the armed forces or DOD, that he was going to talk about these things.
I don't know, but this is a guy that had been under fire for years. He had been awarded, numerous commendations. I saw different reports ranging from 2 to 5 Bronze Stars. I don't know how you can miscount that, but 1 or 2 of them had a Valor device for courage under fire.
Mm-hmm.
His social media, personal life have been obviously under close scrutiny. Recently had a baby with his current wife. But like I say, there were reports of marital issues. Apparently his first wife, he divorced in 2015. No children.
You don't have to bring up all that stuff, though.
Yeah.
That's still hearsay.
Yeah, I'm not bringing anything up. I'm not saying anything. The whole thing, Jane, the whole thing reminds me of The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Melissa, flying monkeys. With his level of training, he's perfectly capable of falling off the grid and not ever being found.
He
Yeah, I
is,
was
but
going to.
his guilt, I think, was so high because he was a part of that, the cover
Well,
up.
I think Jane's, talking about being tailed by Homeland or FBI.
Mhm.
He had the skills and, was trained to evade surveillance. Now, it's a little bit harder nowadays because of all the cameras, because of the GPS in the vehicles. If you don't want to be tailed, don't buy or rent a Tesla. You talking about precise tracking location. Some people are arguing like, hey, the Tesla, he killed himself before and it self drove to the Trump Tower. The way it can self drive is it has such precise GPS positioning that it knows where the lanes are. And it knows, exactly where turns are, et cetera, et cetera. It's, most GPS is within 3 feet. Well, if you're trying to keep a car in a lane, having a 3-foot variation is not that good. So Tesla tracks the hell out of you, and it's got cameras on all sides of the car.
But
Go ahead.
the other theory is that he remote drove it and that it was not him in the driver's seat.
That's
It was
that's
a dead
possible.
human.
But who did he get to commit suicide? Would be my next question. Because this guy was
It may not
alive.
have been suicide.
Well, this guy was alive. He drove
How do you
up.
know?
You could see his hands on the steering wheel.
In which video? I haven't seen that one.
Hotel video. As the car is driving up to park in the place, you can see the guy's hands on the steering wheel.
You could super glue those on.
Well, in the second video, they're not up there, and he's turning around to the back, and you see the implosion.
That is the one that I swear is photoshopped.
Well, somebody was driving the car, and there's no video of them getting out of the car.
True.
So, inconsistencies.
So many theories.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of speculation. But yes, he should have, with his training, he should have been able to know not to buy the easiest car to track in the universe or rent, as well as how to evade, a tail. Melissa, AI is getting really, really good at pictures.
Yep. A Tesla robot was driving it. There you go.
Yeah. But trying to remember what else. He could evade.
Mm-hmm.
And just a few hours before, he was talking about going to Mexico. So that really doesn't fit. Also, as Ellen had mentioned, Sean Ryan and Shu hold open the possibility that he's still alive, that there was somebody else in the car. Again, that's possible. There's one report out, and I can't confirm it, that the DEA, that's DNA, of the driver does not match the DNA of his child.
Yep.
So, some people say, that's why he was depressed. Other people are like, it was his. He always claimed whatever. I don't know. It's just unusual.
I mean, to be mad about your child isn't yours, and then to do all of this because of that, to kill yourself is a little bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah, and understand his MOS was an 18 Zulu. He was a highly skilled, highly trained, highly seasoned, highly experienced operator, a tier 2 operator.
Highly used to stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And had been involved in killing his whole career, 15 years. Now, all of a sudden, he, starts developing some severe guilt complex over it. I'm not going to say it's not possible, never happens, but that's a little unusual. If you don't want to be tracked, get an old VW Bug. They're still around and still run. Eric Prince has an untraceable cell phone, which he would know about as well.
Yeah.
And he would have access to secure comms.
Mm-hmm. Wait, secure comms, what do you mean?
Like secure phones.
From the government?
Yes.
Who's he going to call? The government, I'm sure, tracks even those.
No. They're intrackable. Far as I know. Because that's the whole idea of having a secure comm is that if our government can track it, other governments can track them as well.
But who's receiving it? Who's he going to contact on a?
It's just basically a fancy encrypted satellite phone.
Right.
So it's just a cell phone. Yes, it gets an unknown number.
They have a backdoor to that stuff. They have to. No?
Don't think so. No. Because if the U.S. government can track it, somebody else could figure it out and track it. And yeah, that's not what you want.
I don't trust the government.
I gotta admit I don't either. So I'm not going to say it's definitely not possible, but I just think it's unlikely. Too many people in government don't want to be tracked themselves. So, and Jane, a VW Bug, make mine a 71 Dodge Challenger with a 426 Hemi in it, ragtop.
Or a Roadrunner.
Yeah, you could choose a lot better than a VW Bug. But yeah,
but I know what Jane's thinking. You can't fit as many solar panels for your electronics.
Do what?
You can't put as many solar panels for your electronics.
In a Bug?
Top of one of those.
Oh, you're talking about a van, the VW van.
Oh, she did say Bug. I meant van. Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to blend in, Clay.
Melissa, fan of the 71 CUDA with a 426. That's just a chariot of the gods. Jane, you want to blend in.
True. Clay never wants to blend in. That's not even a thing.
It's not that I want to stand out. I just don't care. It's just not my concern. I have always loved 71 CUDAs.
I know.
I'm kind of mad at my dad because he didn't buy me one back in the day.
Okay, hang on. Before you do this, I got to take my 50-mile bladder break. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Only problem is there were only 11 made 71 426 Hemi ragtops. So, that last I saw, they're going for $1.5 or $2 million a piece for the actual one. Some people take a 70, CUDA and cut it up and replace the front grille or drop in a new engine. But still, a Bug reminds me of playing Punch Bug with my little baby when she was 5. It was fun. The game is first one when you see a VW Bug, you yell out Punch Bug, and you get to pop the other one in the arm or shoulder as you're driving. And so you played to 25 or 50. We'd usually play to 50. And when she was 5 or 6, I'd beat her 50-1. No mercy. I would just cream her. And, time went on, got up to 50-5, then 50-20, then 50-30. Finally, I don't know, she was 7 or 8 and she won her first game. She was so proud, absolutely so proud. She had accomplished something. And I still remember that. So every time I see a VW bug, I'm always like, popping my fist in the air. All right. A little bit more update. There's video out there of him pouring, stopping and buying a white container of racing fuel and pouring it out in the back seat before he drives up to the Trump Tower. You can even see fuel leaking from the vehicle, and see the trail of liquid following behind the Cybertruck. The police said that they found 3 .50 caliber shell casings, the brass casing. Only one had a punched primer. When you fire a round in a gun, you've got the striker that will put a dent in the primer that causes the primer to ignite. That ignites the gunpowder, forces the round out. Only one of the casings they found had a punched primer. The other 2 had cooked off and kicked the primer out, or the heat helped to dislocate, unseat the primers. That's also when they identified the tannerite substitute. In some of the transactions that they found, and some of the recordings and notes he made, they find details on him purchasing the guns and ammo, the items, around December the 27th through the 31st. And then the 6-page manifesto, according again to the Las Vegas police. The total manifesto has not been released. They summed it up. It was just kind of a series of ramblings on cultural issues, things in culture that bothered him. Obviously, some of the corruption in government. He also admits to being high in the manifesto, admits to being high on weed and alcohol. In the manifesto, he talks about his depression, the PTSD, being, in his words, a shell of a human with nothing to live for. Which, again, if he had that kind of mindset, you'd think his team members would have noticed that, over the past few months, past year or two. So, also in the manifesto, it clearly states that he had no intent to kill or injure anyone else, just himself. He did not want to be, labeled as a terrorist. Johnny, my father always said, if you want to escape and evade, you need to become the wind. You just need an old junker that no one will pay any mind to. Dress nondescript. He's right. I still want a 71 Charger. I had a 71 Charger. I want a 71. I want a 71 CUDA with a 426 Hemi. I'll get it right in a minute. My father was stationed out of Fort Bragg as well. Yeah, a lot of people try to make a connection between Matthew and Jabbar because both were stationed at Bragg, but Bragg is like a small universe. You've got the teams, on one side that stay in their neck of the woods, and Jabbar was he was in administration. I forget his exact MOS. It wasn't mailroom, but it was something relatively nondescript. He would have literally had no contact with or interaction with the teams. So and I'm not even sure if their tenure at Bragg overlapped. Hadn't really seen any details on that. But most everybody in the military and the Army at one time or other will probably pass through Bragg. It's big. Just trying to say it without saying he was in that part of Bragg. Yeah, I know. I just want try to make clear that there is no known link between the two, other than they both served at Bragg. And, that's why I'm just trying to be clear. Right now, I really don't classify or consider Matthew's act to be terrorism. Kind of talked about, why. Jabbar, New Orleans, on the other hand, definitely, without a doubt. He wanted to inflict mass casualties. Okay, now y'all get to mock Ellen because she has no mic. Oh, she's back.
I have mic now. No, you're going to get flagged for hate speech because you're calling it Bragg and not Liberty.
Oh, the name's being changed back to Bragg, so.
Is it?
Yeah.
According to me, it's always been Bragg, but.
Trump has already said he's going to change the names back.
Good.
And if you serve there, you're going to call it Bragg. If you've lived next to it for years, you're going to call it Bragg. It's just habit. It's just innate. It's Bragg.
And it's huge. And the people that are there, even if you're in the 82nd Airborne, the years and the teams and the distance, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, they're just different worlds orbiting around Bragg. Now, some people.
Hang on. Sorry. Be right back.
What'd she say? Didn't really catch all that. But one other thing in closing about this particular event was a lot of people follow Sean Ryan. Ellen, for example, came across this from Sean Ryan.
I would do the other video first. You know what I'm talking about? Yes.
This one? Okay.
I think so.
All right. When these two events first happened, a lot of people were, labeling both terrorism acts. And some of them, a lot, 3.8 subscribers remembered one of Sean's previous videos when he had a CIA officer, a counterterrorism expert on, talking about, future risks to America. And so that was, first thing that kind of leapt in their minds. Well, during Shu's broadcast with Sean, they talked about this somewhat, and they gave an example that Shu has received information on. So here goes.
We had some confirmed reporting through two solid sources. And this is where I have to be very iffy. And I told him in the car, and he can tell you offline, I cannot say this on the air, but we had two solid sources, one south of the border and then one from an element within our own government that confirmed independently of each other that some Iranian-made man pads, so surface-to-air missiles, had come across the border. We had the location and everything else. Well, Doc, that's what he goes by, Doc Chambers, he put this out on a podcast, and I was very emphatic, like, this is not stuff that I like to put on social media. I'm an intel guy by trade. This stuff is not for social media consumption. We got this to Secret Service. We did the whole gamut and got everything pushed to them, and that's why.
Okay, man pads. Man pads are basically shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missiles. MANPAD stands for Man Portable Air Defense System. So it's just a little anti-aircraft. I say little anti-aircraft rocket. The tube's about 3 feet long. And the missile's probably 3 or 4 inches in diameter. has a range somewhere around 3 miles, 2.5, 3 miles. So you can be parked in a car a mile away from an airport on top of a parking lot and watch this big plane taking off or one coming in for a landing. You could fire this missile and destroy the plane while it's 5,000 feet in the air. Obviously with catastrophic results. A big target would obviously be Air Force One. Now, this is the particular missile that she was talking about, missile system. The Miska. It's Iranian made. This is the first version. The second version is very similar. This part is a little bit thicker, bigger, larger sensor receiver. It's an infrared homing system, so it's kind of a fire and forget. Once you fire it, it seeks out an infrared signature. It takes the hottest signature, which is usually the jet engine, and locks onto it. Here is where your shoulder goes. This is obviously off the back of your shoulder, and then here's what you'd call the trigger. So throw a couple of switches. They're relatively simple to operate. It's fire and forget. You can fire it, get in your car, take off, and get lost. So if those were in the country, the risk would be extremely high. And that's what she was talking about, manpads.
And next you're going to Sarah Adams.
Yes.
Yes, she was CIA intelligence. And she has done a lot of information gathering that apparently the government couldn't do about Abbeygate and a few other situations.
All right. This is, as Ellen just said, this is Sarah Adams. She's a CIA officer, counterterrorism analyst. She was a senior advisor on Benghazi, the Benghazi follow-up. Wrote a book on it, actually, detailing that screw up. And she has this warning that many in the intelligence community share. And so here's Sarah Adams. And this was kind of feeding back into the terrorist attack at New Orleans and back when Vegas was considered a potential terrorist attack.
We have not had a man walk up to a building with a suicide vest on the United States. Americans don't understand this. Al-Qaeda knows this, right? So this is new and innovative, especially now. You don't have to walk upside of the building. You can walk in the building because of the advancement of the vest. The other thing is, in the United States, we haven't had Fideian attackers. So the concept is the terrorist fights to the death. So he's not exactly a suicide bomber, but he will fight till either all of us are dead or all of his people are dead. We think it's going to be a swarming attack, right? Multiple different attacks at one time across multiple cities. We think there will be suicide bombers just because some of the attackers went through suicide bomber training and they have these vests. And then we think there's these Fideian attackers who will carry on until they're killed.
You just rephrase that. So these guys are trained and they are going to fight until they're killed.
Yes, and that matters, right? So I was watching this video and it was a suicide bombing in Kabul years ago. The bomber blew up and then everyone starts moving in. The first responders move in, right? And then another guy walks in and blows up. We know this is a tactic. But if Americans don't understand this as a tactic and don't understand these attackers are going to fight to the death, think about that. Battle's going on. The attacker surrenders. He might have the suicide vest. We let our guard down. That man came to die, right? He's going to fight till he dies or you die. So we can't let our guards down, and they know our weakness. So we have to be very careful that we don't have more people die in these second and third order effects of not knowing their intent. We have not had a man walk up to a building with a suicide.
Yeah, that is something they are not afraid to do.
Yeah, and that's what they were kind of referencing at the end of the show with Shu, how America is wholly unprepared for these kind of multiple terror or serial terrorist attacks. And Adams and Shu both have strong beliefs that the frequency of those is going to greatly increase in 2025. Now we're on day 7, so I'm not making a prophecy. I'm just relaying information to you.
And listen, people. I mean, this is everything is all love and joy and all that good stuff in America, I guess. And we have let so many people that we don't even know who they are, where they came from into this country, and all of their weapons are coming over. Just don't be surprised.
Yeah, it's just, I've been saying chaos is coming for a year and a half, on this show and in private. And I think as I look particularly across the world, that chaos has been increasing. And I think it very likely that it will continue to. Now, my crystal ball is no better than anybody else. I'm not making a prophecy. I'm not, endowed with the gift of prophecy, but I do follow trends. And, I do try to look at things and understand how they will impact how people will respond in the future. It's not a perfect science, but I give it a shot. And my track record isn't altogether horrible. And Melissa said it's already been a long year. And, didn't bring this one out. Jane makes a good point. Kind of work takes a toll on your soul. He could have simply snapped. With that being said, all this stuff we're seeing and hearing just isn't adding up. It's not adding up. And even in the correspondence that has been published, which is seemingly identified from him, those aren't the words of a severely depressed man that thinks he has nothing to live for.
Nope.
An event is happening on January the 1st. He was kind of always clear about that. And he says, then I'm going to Mexico. That's a man with a hope. That's a man with an expectation. That's not, I'm not saying it's not possible, but Jane, be prepared. Have backups to your backups to your backups. Yeah, we talk a lot about individual responsibility and being able to take care of yourself in chaotic situations. We'll even have shows on growing your own food and, solar cooking and some things like that. And, we haven't had anything in a while. We probably need to, to do a few more. I just think it's good. And I hope none of this happens. I live in a hurricane prone area. And so there is the possibility that, power, water, whatever could be down for days or weeks. That's not an unreasonable expectation.
Nope.
Increasingly, you got more and more countries building nukes. Well, as those become more prolific, what are the chances are some terrorist gets his hands on one or two or develops the ability to build them themselves? What are the most likely places for those to be used? Probably somewhere in the U.S. So I just think everybody ought to be prepared for a worst case scenario. If you're prepared and you never need it,
good for you.
Good for you. You probably had fun learning some additional skills, abilities. You felt better because you were prepared. But if something does happen and you're not prepared, I'm not saying encouraging you to be a doomsday prepper. Sell all you have and, build a bunker.
But you better have some lead.
Yeah. So, we kind of kid around about it a little bit, but these things to me may be low probability events, but in case they do happen, what then is my probability of surviving? If I'm not prepared, it's virtually zero.
Mhm.
So I just do the math. I follow the math. Jane, bring it on. I'll take my tiny house and move to the woods, and you can all have fun. Yeah, I'm kind of interested. Haven't really watched it, but there's even a series out now called Homestead, which is supposed to be kind of interesting. I'll probably watch it. I'm not going to give a movie review or whatever, but I think there's actually a movie in the theaters, and then the series continues on TV. So be interested to see how they portray things.
I mean, at least to the minimum, and like, you can take shavings off of wood, put it in a tin can, and pour some candle wax in there, and just layer it, and then you've got like 2 or 3 hours of heat at least, or you can cook something on it. I mean, there's tiny little things you can do.
Yeah. Everybody ought to know how to purify water.
Mhm.
Everybody ought to have some means of collecting or storing food. Learn how to fish. Basic scavenging. Because I mean, those are going to be the essentials: food and water, shelter. Homestead. That was my life growing up. And it's, to me, it's fun learning.
Yep.
I like knowing I can take care of myself if I can't buy food from the grocery store. Am I going to be happy about it? No, because I like buying food from the grocery store. But there are, I've got alternatives. Learn your plants. Those are all great show ideas. We probably should dedicate some shows to those skills. I don't have it nearby, but I thought, I'm going to learn a little bit about mushrooms. So I ordered a book on. Yeah, I ordered a book on mushrooms. It's like Tolstoy's War and Peace on mushrooms. It is that freaking thick.
You don't need mushrooms. You can live off other things. And as Jane has talked about, we actually did a show on. It was a Tuesday night Q&A with Jane, an herbalist, and learn what is in your area. That's all you have to know. What you can eat, what you can't eat, whatever grows in your zone or your region. Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Oh yeah, we saw the mushroom display at the farm show, and I said, Mike changed it. Clay would be so interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Ellen said, it's a whole lot easier learning the things in your region than it is just getting a book with, all similar mushrooms classified in the same section of the book. And you're trying to look at one and the other thing. Now, this one grows in my area. This one doesn't. This one's good for you. This one's poisonous. How do you tell the difference?
Look at what grows in your area, because the ones that you're going to find in Zimbabwe probably aren't going to have a whole lot of meaning to you.
Yeah. And then, there's some other basic, like there's certain lichens that also can make relatively good antibiotics. If you get cut or an infection, you need some antibiotic to put on it. Storing up food, basic food, meats, beans, something with long shelf life. Just buy, an extra can or two a week or a month, whatever you can do. Melissa, I'll bring these things up to my local CERT group too. We're going to be meeting up soon.
Cool.
I think that's great. I think everybody ought to be developing skills to take care of themselves if something catastrophic happens. It's fun to learn, even if nothing ever happens. and it just gives you a little bit more confidence that you can take care of yourself, which I think is a great thing for most anybody.
And I don't mean to shit on millennials or zennials or
Yeah, you
whoever,
do.
but well, I kind of do. But can you imagine? They're gonna be the first to go.
Gen Zs.
Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, they're like cockroaches. Can't kill us. I will. Definitely. We'll do it.
Yeah, we can do some new filming up there. The whippersnappers.
Yeah, I don't know how they'd survive without
Hadn't
their
heard that.
iPads and their whatevers
Their Instagram accounts,
and their games and their
their OnlyFans sites.
exactly. No, I went to I had a new guy do my nails today.
Oh, how pretty.
Thank you. And he was like, "So you're off work?" I said, "No, I'm working tonight." He's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I have a social media account." He didn't ask me anything else about it. I was like, "It's not like that." It was funny. I just let it go. I'm so happy I'm a Gen X. Me too. We are cockroaches.
Scavenging influencer. Well, that's a good idea, Melissa. We will try to have some of these, future shows. Tuesday night's kind of an open night. Saturday nights usually pick up, a specific finance topic. Tuesday night's kind of a more free for all night. But it'd be good to, have a Tuesday night and just pick a couple things like different ways to purify water.
Mm-hmm.
And how to just a number of different little how-to things. We could pick a couple each night.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, have some short little videos on those. So that, we might try doing that as we go along this year. That'd be a good project. We've got about 20 minutes left. So if y'all have any more questions or comments on Matthew or New Orleans or anti-gravity devices, please feel free, throw them out. But I thought I'd cover a couple things on the market just because I'm a finance guy and I love the markets. And it's kind of, mopping on money. I feel like I'm obligated to to talk about something, monetarily, about monetary issues.
You know what I'm happy about?
What are you happy about?
Bitcoin.
Why are you happy about Bitcoin?
Because it doesn't matter what they do to try to destroy it.
It keeps surviving.
It is like a cockroach too. They should have called it Gen X.
Yeah, it just checking, it's a little bit below 97,000 now. And so over the past month, it's been between 93 and 102, 103. So it's hanging in there. And there's still a lot of good trending towards Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money flowing into it. There's been obviously some end of the year shifts and rebalancing and, people trying to cover some liquidity, selling a Bitcoin to cover liquidity, but it's held up amazingly well, in my opinion. Jane, thrifting for supplies. You can always get oil lamps, camping gear, etc. This is a monetary issue because you can shop on a budget. And that's the thing. This is just something, and I know money's tight for a lot of people. I saw a survey where 35% of home, boy, what was the number? It was a high number. An unusually high percentage of people had been late on at least one power bill. because they
Wow.
didn't have the money to pay it on time. So I know money is tight for a lot of people. You know, some people following the show. And so we do try to aim some of the ideas and suggestions, you know, even towards people. It's not a show for rich people. It's not a show for people in finance. We try to explain things relatively, you know, simply, concisely, not highly technical, and try to give ideas that can benefit most everybody.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I'm not going to always say I do it. Ellen sometimes goes, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Like, I have no idea what you're saying right now. Now, this is one thing that Clay kind of taught me. If you do have any stocks, like the only one I have is Bitcoin. It's not really a stock, but anyway. So the first one I have at the top of my phone, can y'all see that? Is that making any sense? See that,
VIX.
Clay? Yeah, that's the volatility index. So I know if it's gone up, that probably everything else is going down. So I don't even look at it. I'm like, all right, let's wait till tomorrow. But if it's down, then I'm like, okay, how good are we doing? Because I mean, that's just a little tip that you taught me that I was just like, okay. He's like, the volatility index. I'm like, what is that? He was like, it's the volatility of the market. And I'm like, okay. So that's my top one. And if it's up, I'm like, don't care, don't want to look.
Yeah, the basic idea is that, you know, people are saving every month. And so the market has an upward bias. Over a long period of time, the market goes up. Well, people invest bit by bit by bit. So over time, the market goes up slowly. The volatility is low. But when people start getting scared, they become more fearful. When they become more fearful, they can become panicky. And if they see other people starting to sell, they jump in and they sell as well. Well, other people jump in, they sell as well. So that panic builds. And so the market rises slowly, falls quickly. So volatility is the fluctuation in the price. If the price doesn't fluctuate much, it's increasing. If it starts fluctuating wildly, it's most likely decreasing. So volatility increases.
Yes. You
Prices fall faster than they rise.
When the prices are falling, the volatility index goes up.
Yes.
And when the prices are steadily going up, the volatility index is down.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Because the market goes up slower than it falls.
So when the volatility is green, I just shut it down. Don't want to know.
All right. One big issue, another big issue that I think has not gotten much, you know, publicity is the actions of our Treasury Secretary, the Janet Yellen, the much beloved former chair of the Federal Reserve, who has been working tirelessly to get Biden reelected, even if it means screwing things up worse, which is kind of par for DC in general. Mm-hmm. Our uber brilliant Secretary of the Treasury has been basically financing money borrowed by the government at using extremely short duration, short maturity. So all the money that the government has been borrowing for months, for the past 6 months at least.
In her infinite wisdom,
she's been borrowing everything using 1 month and 3 month T-bills.
God.
The advantage there is that the interest rate is lower.
Well, yeah.
The disadvantage is that when rates go up, your rate goes up. She has also spent through most of the cash reserves that the Treasury usually holds for emergencies, rainy day funds, whatever. She's burnt through about $1 million in reserves. So in short, over the past 4 years, the government has overspent buy about $8.4 trillion, plus spent about $1 trillion in cash reserves. So nearly $10 trillion.
Wait, is this on top of the 38 trillion?
Now, this is how we got to
Okay.
the 36.5 trillion
In 6 months?
in 4 years.
Oh, in 4 years. Okay.
Yeah, she has generally stayed very, very short duration in her borrowing. Even in 21, 22, when interest rates were at all-time lows, she was still borrowing short. Instead of locking in long-term, historically low rates, which would be a third of what we're paying now, she borrowed short. So as the rates have increased, so has our interest expense. Now, one effect of this short duration is that this type of debt is very attractive to short-term lenders. So the Federal Reserve runs a function called the reverse repo. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the reverse repo, but a repo is basically a collateralized loan. You have a security like a treasury, $1 million T-bill, but you want to borrow $995,000 for a couple days. You're a bank, you're short on your deposits, whatever. So you will lend the Federal Reserve this T-bill, and they will lend you $995,000, basically $1 million. In a couple days, you'll repay the $1 million and get your T-bill back. So that's a repo. You are repossessing your security that you lent as collateral. A reverse repo is just the flip side of that. You are taking the security and lending out the money. So when the Fed is running a reverse repo, they are taking securities from banks and giving them cash for short term. Now, the banks can use this cash to make
Hang on,
short-term.
You got to break it down a little bit simpler.
Okay.
I know you're saying I don't know how to make it simpler, but is there any example you can use that is more like a day-to-day thing?
Yeah. You're the Federal Reserve, and you will charge me 0.25% for $1 million reverse repo loan. So I give you one of my treasury bills that matures 6 months from now. I still get the interest on that treasury bill.
Mm-hmm.
But you're holding that treasury bill as collateral. So I've got $990,000 from you. I can take that $990,000.
Can we use like a card loan, like if you're going to make it simpler?
It's a pawn shop.
There we go. All right. Now we're talking.
Okay, think of the Federal Reserve as kind of a pawn shop. So you take an asset, you give it to the pawn shop, they give you cash. You can come back.
You got a gold and diamond bracelet.
Yep.
Okay.
You can come back sometime later, pay the money plus the fee, the interest, get your gold bracelet back. That's a repo, and to the pawn shop, that's a reverse repo.
Because the item was taken back.
Yeah, it's two sides of the same coin. It's the same transaction. It's just the different sides of it.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That makes better sense, yes.
Okay. So this reverse repo facility provides cash to the market. It improves liquidity. There's a lot of cash floating around. So banks can use it to make short-term loans if they think the rates are going to be stable. They can take the money and invest it in higher yielding securities. You know, they can borrow from the Fed at 0.5%. They can put it in a 1-month T-bill at 1%, whatever.
Is that the same as if I take my gold and diamond bracelet to the pawn shop, okay, and I'll say I'll be back in 30 days to get it? They gave me the cash.
Right.
And I go and invest it in something with a higher
Yes.
percentage.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's all it is. So this function adds liquidity to the market. This picture that you see before you is a graph of the amount of those reverse repos from the Federal Reserve's position. And you can see over the past year, it has been declining steadily.
Alvin's back. Alvin is back.
Oh, geez.
That was great.
How about if I just point to it? Does that help? So you can see that liquidity is declining. And now if you notice at the end of the graph, there's a very sharp spike. Oh my God. Y'all are killing me. All right,
I can't get to it.
am I still doing the Alvin imitation? Yeah, I see. You see that sharp spike on the Ellen? Technology is great when it works. All right. That sharp spike on the far right is December the 30th and 31st. I really got to go back and listen to myself as Alvin.
Oh, sorry.
I can't imagine. All right, StreamYard, get your stuff together. I wonder if I can get a refund.
The more you talk, the funnier it gets.
I don't know how to stop it. I don't really know what's starting it.
Please continue
All right.
on.
I don't even know if I can. I can't. All right. Let me try and see if it finally has gone away. I'm thinking that's a no. All right, y'all just gonna have to live with Alvin. That's all there is to it. Enjoy the Alvin hour.
Oh, so
If you're tired of my old dog monotone,
we
leave
just
me,
live
please.
here now. It's Chipmunk Land.
All right. Can you trust anything coming from somebody that sounds like Alvin? Is this like putting my credibility on the line? Oh my God. All right. E-Train will be back with us shortly. Oh, jeez. All right. Where was I? Reverse repo. You can tell that, the amount of the reverse repo has been declining. So liquidity in the system has been declining. Liquidity is kind of a big issue in capital markets because they're kind of the grease for the wheels. And if that grease is taken away, the train can kind of grind to a halt. So that's why I follow or track liquidity. Now you notice a big spike in December 30th, 31st, the end of the year there. I'm not sure what caused that. I'm kind of wondering in my own little world if that was just kind of window dressing for banks low on cash. December 31st, they got to close their books. They want to show appropriate capital balances, cash on hand. Well, if they don't have it, if they've been running low, they go to the Fed window, the repo window, and borrow it for a few days. Dress up the books, so to speak. So we talked about how there's issues in banking with liquidity and, kind of some problems there. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But basically, if you look at these liquidity levels, and I've got a measure, this is a measure of government liquidity. The lower, the more liquid. The higher the number is, the less liquid. And you can tell for a good part of this year, the markets have been very illiquid. And liquidity is still high. It goes back to basically COVID era to find something that's comparable. So reduced liquidity in the markets. That's a problem, particularly when you understand that the U.S. is going to have to fund even more debt going forward. More debt at higher rates. Remember, Yellen has not been financing the debt. So in addition to the ordinary maturities that would occur in 2025, there's an extra $9 trillion that has to be placed. Plus about $2 trillion in new borrowing that's already locked in due to the budget that's been accepted, programs that have already been approved, plus $1 trillion in cash, building the cash reserves back up. So all told, there's $12 trillion that Besa's Treasury Department is going to have to refinance this year. That is massive. That's 1/3 of our national debt. But the news doesn't stop there. That third of the national debt is going to have to be refinanced at higher interest rates. So our interest expense, which right now is at about $1.2 trillion. I don't know what you're doing, but think about it.
I just got this from one of our members.
Oh, gee. Alvin. Thank you to whoever
They're killing me.
Just made Ellen's night. All right, so interest expense, basically with this new issue, is going to go up another 30 to 40 billion. That would put our annual interest payments right at $1.5 trillion a year. So over 5 years, interest expense would have gone from $500 billion to $1.5 trillion. That's 3 times, an increase of 300% in just 4 years. That would put interest expense ahead of defense spending. It would almost double defense spending. And it would put it ahead of Social Security spending. It would only come behind Medicare and Medicaid spending, the combined Medicare and Medicaid spending. Now, to add to that, you got to keep in mind that the 3 largest purchasers of Treasury bonds are China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. Each one of those over the past few months has quit buying treasuries and has started selling their treasuries. So what I'm basically describing to you is a scenario where supply is going to absolutely soar. And demand is shrinking significantly. So in terms of what that bodes for future interest rates, I can pretty much guarantee, and I don't guarantee much in finance, but I pretty much guarantee now that interest rates on treasuries are going to go higher, which means interest rates on personal loans, on business loans are going to go higher. That is a huge, huge issue down the road. And that will take some fun out of the stock market. Kind of a fun way to start the new year. And I mentioned China. China's having some serious issues. Just saw where Sunak, one of their remaining large property developers, just sent out a warning that it may not be able to make its dollar-denominated bond payments. So it will be in default. The whole real estate in market in China is just collapsing. And the country is actually experiencing deflation, which is lethal to a fiat currency or any currency. China's 10-year interest rate, the interest on the 10-year bond has decreased 100 basis points over the past year. So, long story short, they're entering a recession. And recession may be putting it mildly. This is an article in the middle of December 17th from
Oh, thank God you're back.
Wall Street journalist who tracks China closely. Obviously, Ling Wei. She may have some contacts there. But she talks about, China's got all these official numbers, but the reality is, well, where is it? Here. Whoops, come on now. Official statistics show that China's economy grew at 4.6% in the third quarter and is expected to reach 5 or so target for the full year. In reality, businesses are struggling to keep their lights on. People are having severe difficulty finding jobs, and municipalities are drowning in debt. Even government employees aren't getting paid. It feels like a depression. China is, and we've talked about this potential for 2 years that it was coming. China is in the midst of severe economic issues. And that bodes not well for the rest of the world because China consumes or has consumed a lot of the world's production. So China will be buying less goods produced overseas. Not only that, they may struggle to pay their own debt, which if they start defaulting on their debt or they have to inflate the currency so much that it becomes worthless, those both have very, very severe international economic repercussions to the financial markets. Not only that, but social discontent in China is bubbling up. The people are getting mad. When people get hungry, they get less and less compliant. Now, the leadership is trying stimulus, monetary support, but we all know what happens when the government starts printing money endlessly to try to pay for things. You get inflation, which will also be exported to other countries. So, I talk about chaos increasing. This is something that will be a huge contributor to economic chaos. And real estate in the U.S. isn't exactly a shining beacon on a hill. We saw some reports this week on U.S. housing. 54.5% of U.S. homes for sale have been for sale for more than 60 days. Highest inventory since COVID, according to Redfin. Combine that with builders reporting the most unsold inventory they've had since the subprime crisis, 2009. Spec houses. Spec houses are houses that a builder builds with no specific order. They're just built and then he puts it on the market trying to sell it. That inventory has also risen to the highest level it has since the subprime crisis. Mortgage rates are rising. Since the Fed starting cutting in August, mortgage rates are up almost 100 basis points, a full percent. 8% is probably likely in the near term, my guess. As interest on the treasuries rise, your mortgage rates are going to rise more and more. So you'll see, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But if you think about it, banks hold these loans, and we're seeing default cracks in all sorts of different loans. CRE, commercial real estate, I've talked about that repeatedly, how that whole market is just collapsing. We're seeing increased default rates on auto loans, on credit cards. Not just auto loans, but also floor plan delinquencies are soaring. Car dealerships borrow money from a bank to buy the car from the producer and then put it on their lot. That's called a floor plan loan.
Okay.
So all the cars you see in a car lot, the dealer is paying interest on those loans.
Right.
Well, they're not selling cars, so they have no way to pay the loan. So you're starting to see some dealers default on these floor plan loans.
Yikes.
So you've got personal mortgages, defaults are rising, commercial real estate defaults are rising, auto loans defaults are rising, credit cards defaults are rising, floor plans defaults are rising. I mean, this is like the perfect storm.
So is it a good time to buy a new car?
It's a lot better than it has been. And keep in mind, over the past year, 2 million people have lost full-time jobs in the private sector. So you'll start seeing more and more mortgages go into default, more and more car loans go into default as people have tapping out their savings to try to cover these loans.
You know who's
and then
making
they
a ton
run
of
out of
money?
savings.
You know who's making a ton of money?
Pardon?
Tow trucks. You know who's making a ton of money? Tow
Who?
trucks.
Oh, yeah, repos.
Yep.
Repo
Where
guys.
can we get deals on those cars, Clay? That's what I want to know.
I haven't been in the market. I haven't really tracked them. I don't know really where the deals and the prices are, but usually at the year end is the best time to buy anyway. So, if you're interested and want to buy, get in touch with your dealer, see what they've got. I know some dealers still have some 2023 inventory they haven't sold.
Oh, wow.
Also in the U.S., numbers out this week showed the manufacturing index at 49. 50 means that the manufacturing industry in the U.S. is producing the same it did the month before. A number below 50 means that it's producing less. A number above 50 means that it's producing more. Well, at 49, this week's number, it's still in contraction. Manufacturing is still shrinking. This marks the 25th out of the last 26 months manufacturing has contracted in the U.S. So we're producing less and less for the past 2 years. The employment index in this industry also fell to 45, contracting for the 7th straight month, as output fell the fastest in 18 months. Not done yet. The sugar on top, prices paid jumped to 52.5, the 11th consecutive month of increasing. So what does that mean? It's a beautiful thing. You've got higher prices with a worse economy. Now, in very, very technical terms in economics, we call that stagflation.
Yep.
So the bureau that's in charge of making that determination officially hasn't said anything. But if you look at the numbers, there's no way around it. 2 million full-time jobs lost in the private sector. And people go, oh, unemployment rate, it's still below 4%. Well, that number is bogus for a couple reasons. One, we just saw last month where the BLS admitted that the jobs numbers for 24, they overestimated by 880,000 jobs. Overestimated the number of jobs created by 880 some odd thousand. Not only that, that number really fails to account for the change in the job market, the gig economy. So if you're employed, you have a full-time job at 80,000 a year. You lose your job. You got to do something for cash. You've still got your car. So you start driving Uber. Well, you're now employed. So that doesn't show up in the unemployment level. But you were making 80, now you're making 8. Saying you're employed really doesn't do that justice. Jane, I didn't see any this year, which is why I'm asking. Car deals?
Yes.
Like I say, I really haven't been looking. I did see an ad by Ram where they were offering like free financing for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
But I don't really know about the prices. Haven't really tracked them. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the unemployment number anymore. It's just a garbage number. Almost completely irrelevant. What is relevant is the private sector has lost 2 million jobs in the last year alone. All the jobs increasing have been in government. Core CPI, the main underlying inflation measure, is above 3% for the past 43 months. Remember, the Fed's target is 2%. So core CPI has consistently been 150 to 200% higher than the Fed's target.
And it is not, I won't say it's compounded, but that is not just 3% across. It is like 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%, correct?
It's 3% annualized by month.
Okay. Really?
And to me, CPI also is kind of a bogus number.
That doesn't seem right.
We've all been to the grocery store, and according to the government, your food has increased 24% since 2020.
Yes, it has.
I think it's more like 75%. Remember, we did a show a few months ago where I pulled up receipts, people from Walmart that bought their groceries on Walmart's shopping website.
Yes, sir.
And they had the history, and the same goods that they bought in 2020, they copied it over, repriced it, and it was roughly 75 to 120% more 4 years later. So when the government, the BLS says food's only increased 24%, I know from my own experience that's bullshit. I don't have the exact data, but I know, I buy the same food every week. And I know what I used to pay, or about what I used to pay 2 or 3 or 4 years ago versus today. So, CPI is an important number, but it's kind of bogus. So kind of what I've been saying for months is that I think you would see some people who wanted to take a risk off position, go to cash, more conservative investing. You've seen some people that wanted to take a risk off position, but they didn't want to pay the taxes for 2024. I think a lot of people, particularly since the election was nearing, are hopeful that that there will be tax cuts implemented quickly. And so by delaying the sale, they may save 5 or 10% in taxes. So I think there's a lot of people that have, wanted to go to risk off, but didn't in December, didn't want to pay the taxes. So they will do it this first quarter. They'll start hitting the bids, particularly after you see a little run up. We'll see, but I think that's a very possible scenario. So that's a little bit on, the markets, the state of the economy. I've actually done my Alvin impression a little bit long. Anybody have any questions?
Y'all better not. I'm tired. It's past my bedtime.
Yeah, it's really good to see y'all again. Would ask, before you leave, if you would hit the like button, subscribe. That really helps us out.
And turn those notifications on.
Yeah. We got some ideas for future shows. If you have some others, email us at moffatonmoney@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter, moffatonmoney. I would love to hear from you. Again, really good to see y'all. Enjoy being with y'all. It's been too long. Hope you all have a great new year ahead.
Yep.
And we will talk to y'all soon.
Yep.
See you Saturday.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you once again. Happy New Year.